patient's advocate, expert on bioidentical hormones, and author of the Hormone Solution. And you could check her out at Dr. Erika with a K, drerika.com. And Doctor, thank you for coming up. Good to meet you. All right, so explain this to me. It's pretty simple on its premise, I guess. You know, history of it in your immediate family. Your mother has died of breast cancer at a young age, so she wants to pursue and see if she's you know, going to suffer the same fate, or can suffer the same fate, or it's likely. So she gets what kind of test done to determine that she has this faulty BRCA1 gene?
A test it's a blood test
Okay.
that shows you what the genetic mutation is. But her mother died in her 50s of ovarian cancer,
Okay.
which also goes along with this problem with the BRCA mutation. The thing is, though, that having an abnormal gene, the mutation, does not mean you're going to get breast cancer. It's not a diagnosis of breast cancer or ovarian cancer, for that matter. It just says that you have a risk of developing breast cancer that's in the 80 percentile.
Right.
Over
what's
the
the
course
normal
of your
risk,
life.
by the way? What's the normal risk?
Well, it depends what age.
Okay.
The problem is that we all have an increased risk. What kills us is really aging. That's the problem.
Right.
And it's not the BRCA mutation that kills us, it's aging.
Okay.
So I think that we need to put this into perspective with the understanding of, because we don't want women to get scared. The idea is that, you know, Angelina Jolie's choice was her choice. I think the fact that she opened it up to the public is a very impressive personal information that she shared, and I think that we need to take from it what's applicable to ourselves, if there is anything.
Well, we'll go there in a second, right. But let me ask you this, and this is what I wondered when I was driving in and heard the report. By having the mastectomy, the double mastectomy, does that naturally there's just a little bit of tissue left? I heard they can't get rid of all of it, so it really decreases the chance you'll get breast cancer. But what about the ovarian cancer? Does it affect the ovarian cancer chances or not?
No, actually what you just said is really true. The mother died of ovarian cancer, and the ovarian cancer is more deadlier. It's worse as a cancer, and it's less able to be detected. We have mammograms, we have ultrasounds, we have MRIs that can detect breast cancer a lot earlier than we can ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer is deadlier.
And by having the mastectomy, it doesn't affect the ovarian at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
It doesn't affect the ovarian cancer risk at all. But the reason she said she didn't do it, from what I read, is also the fact that she didn't do it because she thought that, and rightfully so, taking out the ovaries will put her into menopause immediately. And she's 37 years old. And then hormonally, she will be so impaired that the risk of heart disease increases tremendously. So women who have their ovaries taken out before the age of 45 are at much higher risk of heart disease than anything else. As it is, women die of heart disease primarily. About 350,000 women a year.
And you know, people hear that, but they don't really, not that they don't believe it, but they don't really realize it. Yeah.
But I think that's really the most important piece of it, because 30,000 women a year die of breast cancer and breast cancer problems, related problems, in the United States a year, while 350,000 die from heart disease. So I think that we need to put that into perspective and realize that we really need to prevent. It's all about prevention, and prevent heart disease more than anything else.
Absolutely. How expensive is this blood test to do, and does insurance cover it? If there is a woman out there, or women out there listening, and God forbid, their mother died of it, their sister has it, or their grandmother had, I mean, and they want to get tested, what's the reality when it comes to cost and coverage?
Well, I think that the reality is that Angelina Jolie is in a class of her own, so that does not apply to most women. The test is about $3,000. Some insurance cover it, some insurance do not cover it. But I think that before you even do the test, you have to think about what to do with the test. And there was an interesting article in The Guardian from an English perspective from a woman who wrote today about the fact that she she had a family history, really severe. Mother, grandmother, everybody died of breast cancer early on. And she went to her doctor, and the National Health Service there said, well, you know, your risk is the same as anybody else's, and which is pretty much true until you know if you're BRCA positive or not. And so she wasn't tested. And as it turns out, at the age of 45, she did get breast cancer. And at that point, they did test her, and she was BRCA negative.
Oh, really?
So I think that that's really poignant because, you know, I have 2 daughters, and I will do anything, and I understand Angelina did it for her children. I will do anything to take care of my daughters, to protect them, for me to be there for them. But you have to really empower them, and, you know, and they follow your advice, and they follow your example. And I think the example is about prevention and about teaching them how to take care of themselves.
Well, let's talk about that. We're talking to Dr. Erika Schwartz. You could check her out at her website, drerika.com, Erika with a K, the author of the Hormone Solution. So you've talked about hormones already at length, but not at length, but you've mentioned it numerous times. So talk about it a little bit at length. What do hormones have to do with preventative measures that women could take?
Well, the interesting thing is that women have a lower incidence of breast cancer or any kind of chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and any chronic diseases of aging when they're young, in their 20s. And what's the difference between the 20s and the 50s?
Hormones.
Hormones. You got
it. I knew
it.
Ding, ding, ding.
You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what happens is that as we lose our hormones, and by the way, that applies to men too, because
that was my next
you know,
question.
prostate cancer is not prevalent in 20-year-olds.
Sure.
So what happens is that low testosterone, low hormones increase the risk of cancer. So what we want to do is put the hormones back in before they leave us altogether.
Right.
And we want to put in human identical hormones, which are hormones that are identical to the hormones we make in our 20s when we don't have any
problems. And what's the best way to do that?
The best way to do that is to get a doctor who knows what bioidentical and human identical hormones are.
And there you are.
Well, that's one of me. There are a few of me around the country.
What other kind of hormones are there other than the ones you're advocating?
The non-human identicals, also called synthetic, but they're all synthetic because they're made to not look like the hormones, like birth control pills, Premarin. Those are hormones that are not identical to what the body makes, so the body reacts negatively to them. But at the end of the day, you're better off with any hormones than without hormones.
And so a woman who's going through menopause or has gone through menopause, you would recommend hormone therapy for that woman?
Absolutely. We start before menopause, actually. We give women estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid, which are all bioidentical, human identical hormones, so as to protect them from getting diseases.
Okay, I mean...
but that's not all there is to it.
And for men, testosterone?
Testosterone, absolutely, growth hormone. But the other thing is, thyroid is a huge problem, and we want to make sure that people get thyroid.
Right.
And then the other thing is, you want to make sure that people actually get their hormones in proper balance, and it's part of, the hormones are just part of the picture. It's diet, exercise, lifestyle, sleep, stress management. You cannot underestimate.
I was doing good till you said sleep and stress management.
Oh, well.
Then I failed.
Well, it's a killer, but it's a killer. Stress is the biggest killer.
I know.
And, you know, not sleeping is a big killer. And, you know, eating garbage, which is what we're doing, is a big killer. And if we do not accept that and we do not integrate that, the earlier we integrate it, the better.
You know what always threw me, you talk about these studies that they do, I don't want to throw you a curve here, that show when we turn the clock ahead and we lose an hour's sleep. And then I hear every year, every time we do it, well, you know, so-and-so, heart attacks are going to go up by X amount because we lose an hour's sleep. And I'm like, I never get the same amount of sleep, ever. Who does?
Nobody does.
So what kind of study is that?
Well, but you shouldn't listen to the studies.
Okay.
And that's the other thing, is that statistics and studies don't take into consideration all the variables. They can't. It's impossible. So every study that we get, like one day you should eat carrots, the next day you shouldn't eat carrots, is for us to put into perspective and to realize, does it apply to me or doesn't it apply to me? And I think we all know that taking care of ourselves applies to us.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't mean we're going to do it all the time. We're human.
Right. No. Okay. So women who have been inundated with this Angelina Jolie story and they're scared or concerned more so now than before, they're more aware now than before. Your advice to them who are listening and watching right now?
My advice to them is to really find a good doctor, work with a good doctor, not react. Get information, see if it applies to you. Take care of yourself. Understand that you are unique. and the statistics may or may not apply to you, and your life should be about taking care of yourself and really taking care of your children and not being scared. It's about quality of life. That's the most important thing, and we're missing out on it a lot because we're so afraid,
we're obsessed
and we're so
afraid,
obsessed
yeah.
with fear.
Yeah, no, hey, I can relate to that. Okay, you'd have a field day with me, believe me. All right, Dr. Erika Schwartz. Again, check out her website, drerika with a K.com, drerika.com. And the Hormone Solution is available wherever you get books, Amazon and all over.
Sure.
Great. Thank you so much for coming in.
you.
Appreciate it.